All right, good evening, everyone. This is meteorologist Timmy Albertson here with you guys for tonight's weather chat. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the possibility for some active weather as we move our way through the remainder of the work week in the form of kind of a interesting area of low pressure. It's actually not necessarily going to be one area of low pressure. It's going to be a couple of them that are going to kind of use the same frontal boundary, and there's some upper level things that are going to go on with that. So let's go ahead, folks, and take a look at our good friends, the surface map, shall we? All right. Here we go. If we take a look across parts of North Dakota, we see this very well-defined area of low pressure, pretty much just to the southwest there of the Bismarck area. And we also have another little area of low pressure just up towards the north. Now, this area of low pressure is probably going to intensify a little bit more, and it's going to track its way up to the north and to the east. However, what's interesting about this is you see this frontal boundary that extends out here. Well, that's eventually going to try to push its way to. It might actually help yet another wave of low pressure to develop as we go towards the weekend. And then there could be yet a third wave of low pressure that could develop. So this is kind of the first part of it right now. It's a pretty decent sized low pressure, by the way, about 990 millibars. That's pretty good, especially when we're talking about non-tropical lows in the mid latitudes. But overall, that's kind of the setup. Now, this little guy right now isn't really doing much in terms of producing precipitation. It does have some clouds with it, but not really seeing much in the way of activity. But as mentioned, that could change a little bit, especially once we see this air mass begin to interact with it a little bit here. So what I wanted to show you guys first off here was basically here, a little chart here. Go ahead and flip that up there for you guys so you can take a look here. So that area of low pressure that we see right now on the latest weather map, well, it's being influenced by this little shortwave trough right here. A little hard to see, not the most defined trough that you and I have looked at, but it is still there nonetheless. And again, we have that area of upper level divergence right there. That's helping that area of low pressure to develop. Now, as this thing tracks its way more towards the east, again, we're probably going to see another center of low pressure developing kind of along that frontal boundary. But if we look a little further back off towards the west, we can see we have yet another trough coming off the Pacific Northwest. And this one will eventually help to kick out kind of yet another area of low pressure. Now, you know, I'm talking about a lot of areas of low pressure here. So let's go ahead and start off with our good friend, this particular short range model here. And we'll zoom it up here just a little bit here. And so let's take a look here as we move our way through the day. As we move our way through the day tomorrow, you can see how that, that larger trough coming off the Pacific coast is making its way into the Rocky Mountains. And we have this kind of more or less, you see this whole thing. All right, here it is. All right. So this right here is kind of that wave that we're seeing right now. This is going to be as we go into tomorrow evening. And then back here is the one moving off the Pacific coast. This is a very defined upper level trough here. So watch what happens as we move our way into the day on Saturday. Yes, Saturday. You can see there how that just continues to dig itself right near the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. And that's where we're going to start to see the influence kind of coming in here and helping to develop that. But overall, take a look though. This whole thing does not necessarily hang around very much because if we fast forward through the weekend and going into next week, you can see how that trough kind of quickly makes its way into the Great Lakes area, but we don't see it really hanging around like we'd expect kind of a closed low. That would help to keep some of that colder air around. You can see we instantly start seeing this ridge building once again right off towards the west, and that probably will bring a moderation of temperatures across most of the plains going back into parts of the Pacific Northwest. So while there may be some snow accumulation from this system in some spots, well, we'll have to see how much it is because it might end up melting away yet again. But let's go ahead here, folks, and what we're going to do with this guy is let's take a look over at the surface. Now, again, I've been talking about a couple of areas of low pressure here. Well, I don't know what that is, but that can certainly go away. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at this whole system here. Now, again, what you're looking at here, folks, is again, this is the surface. This particular model's run analysis of the surface here, and basically those purples and greens are precipitation over at least a 3-hour period. We won't go into the specifics of it, but long story short, where there's more color, there's probably going to be some more precipitation. All right. So let's go ahead, folks. This is taking a look at it as we go into late tonight. There's that area of low pressure. You can see it still hanging out there in central North Dakota. Watch what happens as we move our way through the day tomorrow. That low tracks its way up into Ontario. We see that second air mass that we took a look at on that weather on the weather map. That's was right up near the U.S. Canadian border. Kind of gets absorbed into it, and we can see how it begins to kind of push that front a little bit further. Here's that next area of low pressure down here, right north of the Ozarks. As that cold front catches up with it, you can see how that low pressure begins to kind of accelerate and develop itself further, and eventually it will get more absorbed into, excuse me, into that main area of low pressure. But then we're going to see yet another area of low pressure developing. That cold front will kind of slow down a little bit as that low tracks up towards the north, doesn't really have that eastward component, and then eventually that main upper level trough coming off the Pacific coast will catch up with it. And take a look here. That develops into kind of a very nice system there. A lot of precipitation involved in that. And that's going to be as we head our way towards the end of the weekend and going into the start of next work week. So it could end up being uh, somewhat of a precipitating start to the end of the week. Well, I guess it could be a precipitating end to the weekend for those on the East Coast, and then maybe same thing starting off their week too. So a little bit of activity there. So all things considered, uh, pretty interesting in my personal opinion. Like I said, a lot of activity going on across the area. So there you go. That's kind of a little bit of a summary of what's going to be happening. So are we going to be seeing rain and snow with this? Well, the answer is yes, there is going to be kind of a decent possibility with that. So let's go ahead and take a look over at the north central where there could very well be seeing a little bit of a rain snow type of mix here, especially as we go into the weekend when that colder air kind of comes up on the backside of that system there. Could be a little bit maybe of some little snowfall accumulations across parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. But again, keep in mind, folks, the temperatures are not going to be overly cold behind this system. So we're probably not going to see, those temperatures really plummeting to kind of help to keep that snow around for a little bit. So there may be some melting. Even while this event is happening, temperatures could be maybe a degree or so above freezing. We can actually see the 32-degree marker, at least on this particular model. Of course, mind you that you see what I mean there. But again, not necessarily going to be the coldest temperatures associated with this. And nonetheless, let's go ahead, folks, and we'll take a look over at our friends up in the Northeast. And you can see as that system comes through, again, mainly rain, but it could maybe try to transition to snow on the backside, depending upon the timing of that and where exactly all that activity lines up. So that is a quick explanation of the weather, or at least what we're going to be tracking. So, going to be pretty interesting, in my personal opinion. If you want, we're going to go ahead and we'll take one more look here over at the surface charts from the WPC and some of the stuff that they put out here. Again, if you want to visualize all this together, take a look here. This is actually kind of cool. You can see that low pressure tracks its way up towards the north. There's that second air mass catching up with it, bringing in some cooler air. You can see how that precipitation changes over to snow. Meanwhile, here's our second area of low pressure. Notice how that low begins to track to the north. It does kind of slow that cold front down a little bit. And then we're going to see the main air, or, the third area of low pressure developing along that. And it's kind of picked up right here. Again, not the strongest, but still enough to get that precipitation done. And take a look by the time we go our way into Monday, you can see how that system really intensifies a bit more across parts of New England. Go ahead and pull that up there for you guys so you can see it. There you go. As it pushes its way into parts of the New England area. I'll zoom it in here a little bit. That's a pretty decent sized low pressure there. Probably going to certainly be a breezy one. May even see a little bit of lake effect snow yet again across parts of the Great Lakes. But again, we won't go into a lot of details about that tonight. So that's what we're going to be tracking. Tomorrow, we're going to take more of a look at this system again. So I hope you all enjoyed tonight's weather chat, and I hope that you continue to tune into these weather chats. Wow, I couldn't form that sentence there. All righty, everyone. Hope you all have a good rest of your evening and look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow evening. In the meantime, take care and keep enjoying that weather.